Hello, dear viewer, it's the refrigerator again. I can't find that shit anywhere. Please look around for it. I asked my viewers for their favorite underrated songs, and I'm going to rank them on this tier list here. I'm ranking solely based on quality today, not really on how underrated they are, but I'll talk about it, you'll see. Just watch, man, damn. John RE7 says Head Down by Soundgarden. Probably top 3 song in that album, in my opinion, and it is never talked about, which makes me sad. Kind of mid, to be honest, I don't know. Never really viewed it as a highlight of this project, and after re-listening, my take remains the same. Everything's kind of off, to be frank. I don't love the vocals. I think the instrumentation is kind of disjointed. I think it's far from the best on this record, to be honest. I'm going to give this a C tier. SFGB says Climbing Up the Walls by Radiohead. Sure, I don't hear too much talk about this track. It's hard to say anything off of OK Computer is underrated, but this is certainly as close as it can really get off that project. A really eerie track, does a really great job at hammering home the eeriness the rest of the project was kind of building towards. It's a great track. I like it a lot. Say S tier. Stinka69 says A Pillow of Winds by Pink Floyd. I never really hear people talk about this Floyd song, but it's genuinely one of my favorites of theirs. Sure, this is underrated, I'd say. Most people, including myself, to be honest, view metal as just Echoes and Friends. And while the song is certainly not even half as good as Echoes, it's a beautiful little acoustic track. I don't think it's too notable in the grand scheme of their catalog, but it's a fun enough listen. Give it A tier. Your day breaks, your mind aches, you find that all... Spherical 9170 says For No One by the Beatles. Tough to underrate a Beatles track, to be honest, especially one off their most critically acclaimed album. Yeah, so probably not underrated, but a pretty great song. Very Beatles core. It's got everything that makes their music so unique and so great. It's good stuff. The back of the S tier. Brad Likes Alice in Chains says Let Down by Radiohead.
Fuck you.
Go tier. The Lizard King 2002 says I Can't See Your Face in My Mind by The Doors. Pretty accurately rated, I'm afraid. This is merely a solid song. Were this on their debut record, perhaps I'd be a bit more captivated by this track, but it just sounds a lot like the formula they had already mastered at this point. Not all that unique within their catalog, but it's still a pretty solid song, sure. Give it a B tier. Leedle Leedle 4 says Lounge Act by Nirvana. I love the energy in the song, and it's just a fun song. Sure, I like the track. I agree the energy is super high here. It's a very fun listen. Solid inclusion on the record. Perhaps it deserves a bit more praise. Surprised it isn't more streamed, to be honest. Sounds like one of the more straightforward songs on this project. I like this song. It's good. Say S tier. Behind Climbing Up the Walls. Kevin the Lord 5343 says Piss Crowns Are Trebled by Godspeed You Black Emperor. Wow. I'd never heard this track, but fuck is it good. It's a tricky field to navigate whether this is underrated. I mean, Godspeed You Black Emperor as a band is certainly underrated, so is everything they ever put out underrated? I'm asking you, I don't know. This is a sensational track, up there with the best I've heard from this band for sure. I'm going to say back of the goat tier. Stitch 3441 says I Don't Love by Have a Nice Life. Actually my favorite track off the album. Lyrics are gutting and the instrumental locks you in place. Can't say it's my favorite off the record, but it's absolutely one of the best on the project. Perhaps the most potent, the most on-the-nose lyrics throughout the project, I'd say. It's absolutely devastating. I almost find the lyrics too on the nose, though, if that makes sense. A little edgier than even a lot of this project, which is already up there with the goats of edginess. Fantastic song, though, regardless, and certainly underrated, as is the whole project, in the grand scheme of things, I'd say. Say S tier, Behind Climbing Up the Walls. Lithium Luke says 4th of July by Soundgarden. I don't think I see it. I like the song a lot, but I don't think this one's underrated. I feel like I hear a decent amount of praise for this track. A lot of people citing it as their favorite on the record. Well, I think those people belong in the loony bin. This is certainly a highlight of the record. I'll say above Nirvana in the S tier. Mr. Penguin 5471 says Low Ceiling by Alice in Chains. I know it doesn't have Lane, but the song is still really good. Feels like no one talks about this album, and when they do, it's never about this song. Really, there's a giant Lane-sized hole on this song. The instrumentation is solid, very reminiscent of Tripod, I'd say. But vocally, the lack of Lane's presence is kind of just blatant. It's a solid song, one of the better songs without Lane, I guess. I'll say it's underrated, sure. Back of B. Adam Hartmother Fanboy says Achilles' Last Stand by Led Zeppelin. Not only is it one of their best songs, it's also a top 100 song. Sure, this makes sense. I think the culprit behind this track's underrated status is the small little minute detail that every other track off Presence is borderline bad. No one knows this song because nobody listened to this record. But it absolutely is one of the highest peaks this band ever reached. It is criminally underrated, I'd say. This back of the goat tier. Oxide Like Oxide says New Way Home by Foo Fighters. Being the definitive closer to the narrative of the Color and the Shape album, it gets overshadowed by Everlong, My Hero, and Walking After You. Solid track, one of my favorite closing tracks. I'd say this is a very middling track, to be honest. I'd even say it's rightfully overshadowed by those tracks you mentioned. They're kind of just better. A bit more unique, more interesting stories to tell. This is certainly solid as you described, but I wouldn't say much more than that. Go top of the B tier. Mr. Slimer Gameplay says Solaris by Failure. I like this answer, actually. This whole project is certainly underrated in the grand scheme of things, but this is a song that even I often overlook, just due to the sheer quality of the rest of this album. This is excellent stuff. Really unique instrumentation in the production meets the surreal quality the rest of the record does. Good stuff. I say back of the S tier. Harry Main says Didn't You Know by Erykah Badu. Surprised that Didn't You Know by Erykah Badu isn't as regarded in Jay Dilla's discography in terms of works he's produced. There's a story that he had her choose a random record from his collection, like one would draw a card, and the song she picked by chance is the song you hear. As an artist, perhaps Erykah Badu is underrated, but I'm not sure this track was the best pick. It's her most streamed song ever. I'd say Erykah Badu has one of the greatest voices in R&B. Though it's not a genre I often find myself hooked on, this is certainly great. And a cool story with Jay Dilla gives it a little extra bonus points. This is good stuff. The S tier. Mine I Don't Love. Gabriel Loves Rock says Pillars by Sunny Day Real Estate. Really any song from this band could be considered underrated, but this one really shows their versatility and their ability to make a super beautiful and super sad song. Pretty sensational track for sure, and I completely agree. Sunny Day Real Estate deserves more respect. Honestly, I think their music is fairly accessible. I'd show them to my uncle and patiently await a lukewarm smile. It's kind of textbook good stuff. Really enjoyable listen on all fronts. Say above I Don't Love in the S tier. DJ Desartman says Boy Division by MCR. The song already dealt a bad hand by being a part of the scrapped songs compilation Conventional Weapons, and I kind of see why it was scrapped, as there's absolutely nowhere on Danger Days it would fit. Are the lyrics kind of goofy at times? Yeah, but at the same time it brings so much energy to the table that rivals even the likes of some of their hits. The guitar work, while nothing mind-blowing, really works well with the track, and as a whole, it elevates it. The mini breakdown towards the end, all kicking up into the final chorus, is just mwah, beauty. In all honesty, even though I'm a massive Danger Days defender, I can't say I'm not interested in what an album of this would have sounded like. I can't say I'm too impressed, to be honest. I certainly enjoy the energy here. The fast pace of really kind of everything works well with their style. But as unpolished as Danger Days already is, and this didn't even make that, not a song I'll really think about, I don't think. It didn't stick with me. I'll go B tier behind Foo Fighters. Snort Crouton says The Baddest by Joey Valance and Bray. Just great fun overall. These dudes know how to get down, and the song specifically brightens every bad day ever. More people should be tapped in with these fools. Kind of remind me of Ween, I guess, if that makes sense. Just seems like a couple of white boys fucking around, and I can certainly appreciate that. But on my first listen, I can't say my life has changed. It's a fairly silly track. I respect it for sure. I don't know that it's underrated, though. Silly stuff. Back of the A tier. The Red Comrade 3835 says Collapsia by Queens of the Stone Age. Absolutely. I think it's underrated because this entire album is a massive step in a different direction from the sound they kind of established earlier in their career. It's a really good song, though. Excellent instrumentation. Really allows for the lyrics to kind of hit you. I like it a lot. Certainly underrated. I say behind I Don't Love in the S tier. Shoegazer Productions 7706 says Stir of Echoes by J Live. Recommend using headphones for. Takes the sample of this vibraphone being played and he twists it, reverses, and fucks around with it. I won't spoil all the cool little production things he does, but this guy does not get enough love. Yeah, this was pretty good. I was surprised. Really good production. He's absolutely got a solid flow going on here. I had fun for sure, and I hadn't heard of them before. That makes it underrated, I think. Top of the A tier. Darren Trinetto says The New by Interpol. It's always been overshadowed by PDA and Obstacle 1, but in my opinion, the atmosphere created in the second half of this song is unmatched. I can agree with this one, I think. The more I hear this album, the more I kind of find to enjoy about it, and this is absolutely one of the best tracks on this album. I don't think it's better than Obstacle 1, but it's got some serious chops, and it fits really well on this album, both thematically and sonically. Behind Sunny Day Real Estate in the S tier.
Sometimes I feel like quitting and making some.
Yopa Care says Trouble Found Me by Madison Cunningham. My favorite song by my favorite songwriter ever. He blends Fiona Apple, Radiohead, and Jeff Buckley influences flawlessly and just sounds like a mix of all the other artists I love. I definitely hear the Fiona Apple influence here, but I'm not sure I hear all that much Radiohead or Jeff Buckley, to be honest. Luckily, I enjoy Fiona Apple, so I'm going to say this is underrated. Really good stuff. Behind Soundgarden in the S tier. Yak Rory says Kicking Cars by Panchico. It's one of my favorite songs of all time, and I think people are usually too distracted by the title track to really pay attention to how good Kicking Cars is. While it is perhaps overshadowed by the title track, this is certainly the song I hear the most about, minus the title track. I don't know how underrated it is, but it's a fantastic track for sure. Really strong vocals and instrumentation. One of the band's highest peaks, I'd say. Absolutely. I'll go behind I Don't Love in the S tier. Kyle Crisp 2607 says The Apocalypse Made Me Brave by Girlfriends. I think it is a low-key masterpiece and how the song is structured and how it sounds sonically. I don't ever see enough people talk about it. I think the whole album is a masterpiece, but this one stands out to me the most. I don't know, this isn't for me, I don't think. Vocally, it's a little whiny for my taste, and sonically, it was certainly interesting at points. But overall, I can't say I was too hooked or captivated by really anything this song tried to do. I say B tier, Behind the Doors. Austin Cash says Wilma's Rainbow by Helmet. Every time I hear the intro to this album and the iconic guitar harmonic intro, I know I'm in for an underrated banger of a track. Pretty solid, actually, and it certainly fits the underrated prompt. It's artists I've heard very little of, but to me they sound like a solid second-tier grunge band, if that makes sense. We got some pretty high highs, this certainly being one of those. It's a really heavy track. The vocals do their job, and allow the guitar to just kind of rip. It's a cool song. I like it. S tier. Love Failure. Mac Idiot says Goodbye Sober Day by Mr. Bungle. I think the Bungle as an artist has to be underrated, but I completely understand why they are. If I were to play the song in front of my uncle, I'm not even sure what would occur. Perhaps he would explode on the spot. It's certainly the culmination of everything great about this artist, and one of their highest peaks. But I understand why it's underrated. It's a really hard song to kind of digest, but really good. Back at the GOAT tier.
Hey man, look at me rocking out. I'm on the radio.
Aquafontaine says Radio Video by System of a Down. It's their greatest song. No, it's not, but I do agree it's underrated. System's mainstream popularity really just extends to their heaviest stuff and kind of their sad core stuff. Kind of falls in the middle of those. It's not quite as heavy as some of their stuff. Gives it a cruel fate, but it's a really sick track. It's a very fun listen. It keeps System's sound. It's true to their sound. I'll say behind Interpol in the S tier. Jacker13 says Man of War by Radiohead. Wasn't released even as a B-side for OK Computer, but luckily got dusted off for the 30-year anniversary. Doesn't get the recognition it deserves. Fantastic instrumentation. It truly is crooked the fate this song received, but I think nowadays, in the world of streaming, the song is pretty well respected. Had it made the project originally, I'm sure the song would be far bigger, but as a B-side, it definitely gets the respect it deserves. Seriously incredible track, though. Why the fuck was electioneering on the record? Please someone answer. Above Zeppelin in the GOAT tier. RJ Scooper says Untitled 8 by Kendrick Lamar. I'd already describe Untitled Unmastered as a really underrated album, but it has a ton of bangers due to it being leftovers from T-Pab. But the standout for sure is Untitled 8. Pretty cool track. I haven't had the pleasure of listening to this project in full, and I can't say I'm really hooked off this track, to be honest. Very solid, but it sounds like an outtake. Kind of unfinished product, which I'm aware it is, but I understand why it's not much bigger than it is. A little long on the outro sequence too, I'd say, but definitely solid. Top of the A tier. Mean Tood says The Argus by Ween. Feel as if it's overshadowed by other tracks on Quebec. Sure, I guess. Hard to not be underrated and be a Ween song, unless of course you were featured in a SpongeBob film. This is certainly one of my favorite tracks on the record. Maybe just one of my favorite in music, to be honest. I love it to death. Truly one of the band's most ambitious and just surreal tracks. Top of the GOAT tier. Untold13 said, I Only Said by My Bloody Valentine. It's been my favorite My Bloody Valentine song, and I feel it's overshadowed by When You Sleep. I don't like this one at all, to be honest. This is honestly one of my least favorite tracks on the album. This song just sounds like whiny. I don't want to think about it. Back of the C tier. Sharknado 2006 says Starless by King Crimson. Unbelievably incredible song, and definitely one of those pieces of music that makes you sit in silence for a few minutes after listening to it for the first time. Underrated by the world, perhaps, by kind of critical music fans. They kind of acknowledge this song as the ridiculous masterpiece it is. One of the most ambitious and surreal tracks ever written, really. Just absolutely fucking nuts, like top to bottom. One of the greatest songs ever made, bar none. Top of the GOAT tier.
Shot spot rewind, please girl be mine. Email denied, talk to me baby, or I go crazy.
Saturday Night Wrist fan says Two Shadows by Childish Gambino, sandwiched between two of the more popular tracks beyond Because the Internet. Doesn't get the appreciation it deserves. Pretty solid track, but I wouldn't go much further than that. I think the production is pretty stellar. That's kind of consistent with most of this project. It's a solid song, and certainly not a skip, but it's just not a song that's carrying a lot of weight on this album. Solid filler track. I'll go A tier behind Kendrick. Neva Rad 8497 says A Fair Judgment by Opeth. Ethereal music, and it has no growls if you dislike the vocals. I like this, but honestly, I think this song might have bit a bit off more than it could chew. A bit overambitious, just kind of too much shit going on, too many change-ups. I feel like they could have picked a lane here, but kind of just veered all over the road. I did enjoy the vocals, and the instrumentation itself was fairly incredible. Just didn't flow all that well, I guess. Still pretty damn sick, though. I'm gonna go S tier behind the Beatles. Lman1195 says Paper Champion by Ocean Size. One of their top 5 songs in my opinion, but it's a super deep cut. Appears on an EP. Even compared to the rest of their discography, it's underrated. Certainly a deep cut. I'd never heard of these fellas, and I'm interested. Really unique sound on all fronts, really, vocally and instrumentally. Even production-wise, this is just very unique. It's very interesting. I had fun. I'm gonna go S tier behind Opeth. Chris Thomas 5007 says Lotion by Deftones. Song grooves so fucking hard. I agree. Song doesn't get much recognition for whatever reason, but it sounds to me like almost the most around the first song on the record. Kind of the template taken to its heights. Well, it's not the best song on the record. It's incredibly true to their sound, and it fucks. I'm gonna say S tier above Sunny Day Real Estate. Aaron MWW says Throw the Wine by Swell. Real groovy indie rock. Pretty cool track, certainly groovy. They've got a great sound here. Absolutely underrated, I think. I'd never heard of it. I don't know how captivated I am, but the sound is certainly good. I'm just not sure how unique it is, I guess. Back of the S tier. Facelift 90 says Hummer by the Smashing Pumpkins. For me is one of the greatest songs of all time and easily my second favorite from Siamese Dream. It was my favorite Pumpkin song for a long time, so I'm inclined to agree. Kind of just stellar on all fronts. Some of my favorite guitar work from the 90s scene, and some really memorable lyricism. A very quotable song. I like it a lot. One of my personal goats for sure. So I'll say GOAT tier. Behind the Argus. Imam1480 says Spiders by System of a Down. As far as System of a Down goes, this is underrated as it gets. Incredible song. Easily one of their best yet. It's never up there in most people's top 5 when I feel it really should be. Top 5 for this artist is very tight. I don't think the song would make it for me, but I agree with the sentiment. Really strong track, and one of their more accessible songs, I'd say. It sounds closer to hard rock than it really does metal. And that might be the culprit behind its fate. It's a great song, but I can't say it really embodies System of a Down all that well. I'll go behind Interpol in the S tier. That's all I have written here. Be sure to become a member if you'd like a guaranteed spot in these videos, and subscribe if you enjoyed. And I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.